That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Spell, which I believe is the third film directed by Mark Tonderai, which was released on October 30th, 2020, courtesy of Paramount Players.
What are his other two films?
He did a film called Hush, not the one starring Goop and Jessica Lange, and 2012's The House at the End of the Street, which we saw.
We saw that in the movie theater.
At a press screening, yeah.
Oh no. What's the one we saw with my Last House on the Left.
That's a remake of the Wes Craven. Oh. But no, The House at the End of the Street, it's with Jennifer Lawrence and Elizabeth Shue, and that movie was delayed several months so it wouldn't be released at the same time as The Hunger Games that year. So now Mr. Tonderai is kind of being screwed over again by the pandemic, but...
I decided to watch this film because I follow Loretta Devine on Instagram.
Same.
She was posting about it. I like her a lot. Also, I had heard sort of some mixed reviews.
The marketing on this, there wasn't a big push for this film.
So I was intrigued. I paid my little $9.99. It's about a man named Marquis.
Marquis T. Woods.
Played by Omari Hardwick.
Mm-hmm.
He is a successful attorney. Mm-hmm. He gets a call one day at the office saying that his father has died. So he and the family decide to go visit where his dad was at the time he died, which is in the Appalachia somewhere. So they hop on...
and he's estranged from his father. He hasn't talked to him.
He's estranged.
The kids didn't even know he existed.
So Marquis, the wife, and the two kids hop on his private plane that he can fly. Mm-hmm. They make their way down there, and as they're flying into like the mountain range, the plane crashes. Cut to Marquis waking up in a bed, confused, not knowing where he is, how he got there, and he's being tended to by Miss Eloise, who is played by Loretta Devine. Mm-hmm. She's not giving him any information except that she's like a voodoo queen, like a witch doctor, whatever, and that she needs him there until the blood moon because there's some ceremony basically, and she needs him because she is going to remove his heart to then give it to her husband Earl. Mm-hmm.
Although it's not made explicit up front that that's what the ceremony is.
But that's what it boils down to.
Right.
However, Marquis gets the upper hand. He is able to sort of kill Miss Eloise and then escape with his family. The end.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. So this is the reunion of Omari Hardwick and Loretta Devine because they both starred in For Colored Girls back in 2010.
How could I forget that?
I don't know. How could you forget that? I don't think they shared any scenes in that film.
No, but we have to bring up Janet Jackson's in that movie.
Yeah, Loretta Devine has a scene with Janet Jackson, but...
She does. Loretta asks Janet's character for money, like for charity. And Omari plays Janet's husband.
And gives her HIV.
Who gives her HIV. Mm-hmm. Yes, how did I forget that?
I don't know, but...
But what are your initial thoughts of this film?
I thought it was a lot of fun. It's not scary by any means.
No,
and
it's ridiculous but entertaining.
I mean, when you're talking about the Appalachias, which, I mean, movies like Deliverance are set there, or the other one we reviewed about the people that worship the snakes, Them That Follow, with Jim Gaffigan and Olivia Colman. Like, you know, it's kind of this, it's very much...
It's not as serious as those.
No.
This is kind of campy.
It is campy, but the campy elements are really what's best about it, i.e. Loretta Devine.
Loretta Devine is divine, not unlike Octavia Spencer and Ma.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you liked Ma, I think you would like this film.
Oh yeah, every line utterance, which is followed by ooh, ah, like...
everything she does, anytime she's on screen, it's great.
And then she has this crow in her kitchen that she talks to.
Her pet bird, yep.
That I could have used many more scenes featuring those two together. Yeah. But the crow knows how to swear, which is only utilized once, but it's good.
I'll just go down my little notes. So, Marquis' children, a son and a daughter.
Who had interesting names, Tydon and Samsara.
Yes. Samsara has nothing to do.
No,
I don't even think she utters more than like 3 words.
No, nothing to do.
Ty, who I thought looked like Shangela the drag queen out of drag.
DJ Pierce.
He's interesting because he's being bullied at school, but then he acts like he's cool, which is funny because if you were that cool, your ass wouldn't be punked at school all the time. But he has an interesting a deformity on his hand, which he explains is like a basketball injury, which is relevant later in the film. But yeah, the kids are interesting. The opening scene of the film is Marquis with his wife, whose name is
Veora.
Veora. All these names are so... Because even Marquis, I guess Marquis would be with an E at the end. So the fact that it's not with an E...
It sings out Marquis T.
Sure.
Yeah.
The opening of the film is Veora.
Same. Potato.
Locked in a room in their very upscale, house.
Yes.
Like, they have a lot of money. They have a very, very nice house. And he explains, she's locked in the room, like the door won't unlock, and she's like, you have to break this door down. And he's like, I'm not breaking down this door. It was imported from wherever. I paid $1,500 for it. But then, he unlocks the door. So there really was an issue with the door. That was such a weird scene.
It was, but it sets up how he is able to get out locked up in Miss Eloise's room.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I wrote down, is this their idea of foreplay? Because...
No, I think that's to show that he's resourceful.
So he's like a locksmith. Okay.
Well, because he grew up there and he learned the ways of his father as a teenager, so I'm assuming that...
Which is relevant.
What that means.
Omari's haircut in this film is very interesting.
Yes.
It almost looks like he's wearing a toupee. Like he was bald and then they put a sheet of hair on top of him, that they faded into, but they didn't do a very good job, and then they cut a part into it.
Yeah,
it was very weird because then halfway through the film, after he wakes up, after he's in the house, after time has passed, then he has a normal looking haircut. So that was.
I think that was to also show time progression as well.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Which, at least, thankfully there was that attention to detail.
When they land, so they get in the plane to fly over, but they have to stop before they fly into the Appalachias, kind of on the outskirts. He just pulls up to a gas station like he's in his car with this airplane, which I thought was funny.
In a scene that seems like a rip-off of when the family in both versions of The Hills Have Eyes stop at that gas station before their denouement.
Although, a yokel walks up to Ty, the son, and, the son goes, can we get service here? But the son is talking about his cell phone. Mm-hmm. But the man takes offense to it. It's a black man, and he is slavery's over and done with.
Pump your own gas.
And Ty's no, cell service. So the guy's kind of creepy, because he looks a little disheveled, and he asks to see Ty's phone. So, of course, Ty's thinking he's going to steal my phone. They have a very interesting exchange. And in the end, when the guy finds out that Ty and his family are headed to this mountain range area, he's like, well, good luck with that. FYI, you need to upgrade to a 5G phone because we don't get 3G and 4G out here, which I thought was a really funny scene. And then the bathroom scene. Marquis, when he's at the gas station, asks for a bathroom.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, use the outhouse, which is far away from the... Although it seems stupid at the time, but then when he gets back, because he doesn't want to use the outhouse once he gets there because it's dirty. But then when he gets on the plane, he makes it sound like he needed to take a shit. So he wasn't going to shit in the outhouse. I thought that was weird. But getting to meet Loretta, immediately Miss Eloise explains that, she... is a witch doctor.
She's a voodoo queen.
With
the goofer dust.
With the goofer dust. And she introduces, I had never heard of this sort of fixture, but a boogity doll.
Yeah.
Boogity.
Which is basically an effigy of...
a voodoo. It's a voodoo doll.
It's a voodoo doll, yeah. She explains to him that with blood and semen and other parts, the doll will start to take on... more characteristics of him, and what's good for the doll is good for him.
Yeah. She also tells him right away that she got that good root work, which I thought was funny. Her character has a lot of funny lines.
She does have another scene I really like is when she's having the revivalist meeting, when they're slaughtering animals and putting parts of them in other people's boogity dolls.
So Omari, Marquis, he's hurt his foot. So he's unable to move around easily, and he's locked in the attic, very much like Misery.
Yeah, it has shades of Misery. Yeah.
But he is able to escape the first time, because he gets out of that room 5 times. But the first time he gets out, it's a rainy night. He kind of is hopping over the roof, and he goes to the barn, and he sees the revival you spoke of, and she's showing like all her little disciples her good root work, and she cuts the tongue out of a cat and puts it in the boogity doll of this one woman. And it like allows her to talk. She's like, I'm a dog.
But talks funny. And then she does something more complex with a goat.
She cuts out a goat's eyes and like puts the eye. I thought this was a good scene too. She cuts the goat's eyes out and puts it on a blind man. But the blind man doesn't have eyes. And then she's like, well, can you see? What can you see? And with these creepy goat eyes, the guy looks up and points to like, there's a hole in the roof where Marquis is looking down. I thought that was effective.
Yeah.
She has so then Marquis goes back to the room. He's still like trying to figure out what's going on with his family. She has a line, Miss Eloise, where she says like, because he wants her to call an ambulance, and she's like, we don't have Obamacare over here. Then she brings him food, which he loves. He like devours it.
That's another good scene.
Really good scene. He devours his food, which right away you're like, this cannot be good. He asks for seconds, or she brings him seconds. He eats it up. Then she brings like chicken bones, and she's like, you need to learn how to play with the bones.
All the wisdom of the world is in these bones. And she's like, why don't you play with them?
He plays with the bones. And when, he shakes them up, opens up the sheet, and he sees that the bones are in the configuration of a hand.
Well, I think he arranges them.
Or does he arrange them?
I think he arranges them,
yeah. And they're deformed like his son's hand is. And that's when he realized, his son also has a tattoo of the number 30 on his hand. So Marquis sees his son's deformed hand. He throws up the food he ate. And you see in like his vomit the skin that says 30,
which is the little overkill to make us realize that he ate his son's.
I don't mind because sometimes I'm not paying attention, so I don't mind that they give me a little extra.
Because they confirm it later.
They do.
Those boogity dolls are creepy.
They are creepy. Marquis escapes this room a number of times, which I thought was funny. Like, how many times are you going to get out of this room?
Even after they drive a. What would you call it?
Like a steel, like the thing...
Stake.
Yeah, a metal stake. They drive it into his foot.
Like through his ankle that would ostensibly go all the way up.
Like a 12-inch rod.
His shin.
To prevent him from moving around. He pulls it out so that he can run around.
And does an awful lot of running around while they're at some church thing.
And while he does that, he discovers like her like witch doctor den. And he... So throughout the film up to this point, Marquis is having flashbacks of his dad telling him like, oh, you think you're better. He's called uppity a lot. You think you're better than me. We're the same person. You know how to do this. You need to accept it. So when he's in her little witch doctor room, he starts like making voodoo. But while he's in there, there's a lot of creepy stuff, including a severed penis. Well, first of all,
attached to something.
Well, first of all, you see the like dead body with the penis cut off, and then you see the severed penis attached to something else. The film is darker and a little more macabre than I would have expected, which is good. Marquis mentions early on that he hears like a phone pinging. He says ping, but like the ringtone of the phone. And she's like, I don't know how that could be because there are no phones in this house. Like obviously there's a phone in here. He ends up finding the phone, and he finds like all of their phones in like a little box, and one of them is still on, which I thought was kind of stupid. Especially after he told her, I heard the phone.
And it's got like and he's been there a week. It's 1% battery. He makes a phone call to 911, and it's the local sheriff who also had a scene with him at the gas station, and who I guess gets all the 911 calls in the area.
Well, the sheriff is in cahoots with Miss Eloise, so when he calls 911, it goes to him, and then he comes down. But really,
but in minutes later, he's right there.
Yeah.
If there's a problem with the film, there's really no tension or suspense.
Well, that's my next note, because the story is so clear from the get-go.
Yes.
The minute we meet Miss Eloise, she just tells you, like, I'm a voodoo queen, and that's what we're doing today, and the blood moon is coming. Obviously, you're going to be a sacrifice. Tale as old as time. And it's exactly that. I mean, even the things that are spelled out, like you said, like
the title.
Like Marquis vomiting up his son's skin.
It's just a little too obvious in one note.
Even Earl, when that day that Marquis pulls the stake out and runs around and does all the stuff, Earl even says, like, oh, what if he pulled out the spike and walked all over the farm? Like, he actually says...
Exactly what he did.
Exactly what he did.
There's too much telling and not showing. And all the subtext about Marquis, who we're made to understand he's supposed to be this whitewashed person who's distanced himself from his past,
his roots,
and has made like these elitist, spoiled children that can't survive on their own in the wild. And it makes the dialogue with the family very crunchy sounding, and I just think that Omari Hardwick doesn't read as somebody that's whitewashed at all.
Okay, so here, I want to talk about that, but lastly, the way Marquis is able to overcome Miss Eloise is when he was in that little thing mixing up his voodoo stuff, he made some dust that was able to like disable everyone.
He switches her goofers because she goes, I'll bring you up and bring you down and bring you sideways round and round. So it's very like what they did to Judy Garland. But he switches it up on her. So when she thinks she's passing him out at the end, he's
actually hyping her up. Mm-hmm. And then he sort of disables her, and then he finds her boogity doll.
He makes his own boogity doll.
He makes his own boogity doll of her. Oh, we didn't mention Louis?
Louis, yeah.
So Miss Eloise and Earl have a son who is like this super like strong big man who they say people think he's like special, like mentally handicapped, but he may be special, or people think he's slow, but he isn't.
And then when she claps.
Yeah, she claps at him and he kind of does what she wants. I thought that was good.
That was good.
But so Marquis is able to disable Louis, disable Miss Eloise. He's made a boogity doll of Miss Eloise, and sort of the final scene with her is he takes her boogity doll and hits it with like a bat, like hitting it like a baseball, and knocks her the hell out. I thought that was a good shot.
It is a good shot because they slow down.
It's slow-mo, and she hits like a pillar in the farmhouse, and then it sort of collapses, but also it catches a flame. Mm-hmm. And then he does some other voodoo so she can't leave the farm.
With the salt.
With salt, and she is burned in the farmhouse. But Marquis, while he was in that voodoo room, took all the boogity dolls of all the little disciples who were there. So he basically says, like, unless y'all want me to...
He's like, don't make me have to use these boogity...
Don't make me have to use the boogity dolls. So all the people let him go, and he drives off, the end.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so Omari Hardwick, like you said, I don't think he reads... I don't really like the word uppity, but he's called that. I don't think his portrayal of this character matched that.
I agree.
So he seems a little miscast.
That said,
I like Omari.
I do like him, seeing him in a lead role. I haven't watched Power.
Because I won't support 50 Cent. He's a bully.
He is a bully.
So I won't be watching Power, even though Mary J. Blige is in it.
And he is a fan of Sigourney Weaver, Mr. Fitty. But I haven't seen Power, but... Omari's film work, of course, for Colored Girls. He's really good in Ava DuVernay's Middle of Nowhere. I remember begging a publicist in 2013 for a copy of The Last Letter, this genre film he did with Sharon Leal. And then when I got it and watched it, I sent it right back. This is back when not everything was online.
Oh. So I think, that's a misstep for me. I also think the children were... My vision of him would have been more like Kenya Barris and Black AF.
Yeah.
Like, I would have liked Marquis to be kind of like Kenya Barris and Black AF, and like Kenya Barris's children in Black AF.
Just kind of demeaning and like oh, we aren't country like this and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that was very off to me.
Because the mother, Lorraine Burroughs is the actress playing the mother, and her speech to her son about we all started out as country.
She seems the most self-aware.
She does, but it comes across so on the nose that it's takes you out of it.
It does, but... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it was shot in South Africa.
What?
Actually, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was reading.
So I skimmed a few reviews on YouTube of this film, and some of the comments people made I didn't agree with. Like, one person didn't like the color palette of the film.
It was shot by Jacques Jouffret, who...
I thought it looked really good.
I thought it looked... Especially, there's a lot of shots with this jaundiced yellow in the background framing Loretta Devine that I thought fit this ambiance quite well. Jacques Jouffret was the cinematographer on the first 3 Purge films. Good Joe Bell with Mark Wahlberg, Mile 22 with Mark Wahlberg. I thought it looked. I thought it fit.
Yeah, it looked good. It's not boring. I saw someone say it's boring and dry. I don't like the minute Loretta Devine pops on, which is like what, the 20-minute mark.
Yeah. I
mean, from there I'm amused.
I was very entertained and amused, and like, however, if you are not into any of the facets of what make up this film and are just looking for a horror film, of course that it probably isn't going to make you appease you.
Yeah, that's true.
It was written by Kurt Wimmer, who directed a movie in the early 2000s called Equilibrium with Taye Diggs and Christian Bale. That's very Matrix / Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 that I really liked. And then since then he's done stuff. He did Ultraviolet with Mila Jovovich, which is terrible. But I found it interesting that he wrote this and like that it has a white writer and white director. And that might have to do with some of the crunchiness of the juxtapositions they're trying to do.
That being said, I'm glad they made a film starring black people at least. And
same.
So
and a chance for Loretta Devine to shine, because any chance to see her in a sizable role in a film.
She stays busy though.
She is. She's very busy. A lot of television work, but this is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. What would you give it?
For her, 3 out of 5.
I would give it 3 out of 5 because of her. All right. Bye.
Bye.